In this video, we're taking a look at what almost became my new favorite light, the Weeylite Ninja 400 by Viltrox. In the interest of full disclosure, I do want you to know that Viltrox sent me this light for the sake of this review. However, my thoughts and opinions are my own, and you can rest assured that this is an honest and unbiased perspective. The point of these videos is to ensure that you're able to make an educated decision regarding where your hard-earned money should go, and misleading you is no way to go about that. That being said, at the time of this video, you can pick up the Ninja 400 for $369, and you can find the links for it in the description down below. This light boasts a lot of really positive attributes and is a 150 watt unit with a color spectrum of 2500 to 8500 Kelvin. Kind of. We'll get to that. The build quality is great, featuring an all-metal body and yoke with a strong plastic end cap and handle on the back, as well as a really cool feature that I haven't seen before on other budget lights, which is an attached protective lens for the COB. It's also fairly compact and lightweight, coming in at just over 3 pounds for the light itself, but you'll be adding an additional 3.5 pounds for the power brick and controller, bringing the total to just shy of 7 pounds. This is also a Bowens mount light, and it comes with a Bowens mount chimney, which secures really nicely and doesn't budge once it's in. The light also comes with a padded case, but unlike most lights in this price point, the Ninja 400 case is very rigid and well made. It isn't quite up to par with a hard case, but it's honestly not too far off. Now right now for this setup, I'm using two GVM P80S daylight balanced lights, which I previously reviewed and you can find here. The hair light is set at about 10 o'clock, give or take, and my key light is at full power, using the GVM 26-inch globe softbox, which I also reviewed here. I set these up so that you could get an idea of the difference in light quality and output between these lights. I'm going to post my camera settings below, which will not be changed, and temporarily remove my color grading so that you can see the raw image. Now we're going to replace the key light with the Ninja 400 set to 5600 Kelvin at 39% power to closely match our current output. See anything weird? Me too. This light shifts towards magenta in a pretty serious way. While the light is listed as having a CRI of 96+, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that that's a bit misleading. Truth be told, about the closest that I can get to a 5600 color temperature that I would typically expect is by setting this unit to 8400. And the reason I say 8400 is because the jump from 8400 to 8500 is significant. In fact, there are several measurable jumps, which is why I said it kind of has a color spectrum of 2500 to 8500. To show you that, we're going to use the included remote to go through all of the color temperatures one at a time. Bear in mind that my camera is set to 5600, so extremes in color spectrum are going to look very extreme. Speaking of the remote though, I have to say that I appreciate the simplicity and compact design. It runs on two AAA batteries, controls all of the important aspects of the light, allows me to get an impressive 60 feet away with a clear line of sight before it won't work consistently anymore, and unlike some lights out there, it will dim all the way down to 1% while using it. Kind of. We'll get to that too. Now that we're back down to 8400, if I show you a comparison of the daylight balanced GVM 80 watt light, you can probably see why I feel like this is much closer to the expected 5600 color temperature. Yet even still, some of the magenta remains present. So we're going to add the color grading that I was using at the start of this video. And now we're going to tweak it to compensate for the magenta shift. Back to the subject of dimming, while the light dims down to 1%, it's a very bright 1%. Leaving me to feel like the 1% display is actually closer to something like 10%, which is why I said kind of regarding its dimming capabilities with the remote. But this is the case regardless of whether you dim it via the remote or the controller, so we can't even blame the remote on this one. Dimming via the controller can also be a little finicky. It doesn't happen all of the time, but on occasion, while raising the brightness on the controller, I've noticed that it will dim instead, sometimes by a few %, almost as though I rotated the knob counterclockwise for a second. I have no idea what causes this, and it's not a huge inconvenience, but it may be a quality control issue. On the plus side though, the light is definitely bright, and you're getting every bit of the promised 150 watts. One of my favorite parts about the design of this light is the way it locks in at your chosen angle. Unlike typical knobs that you tighten down to stop the light from moving, this one is designed with a quick release lever and teeth that interlock. You would literally have to break something to change the angle of this light on accident. Speaking of changing things, the fact that the controller is separate from the unit is an absolute delight. If you don't have the remote on hand, your batteries die, or you're just not a fan of remotes, in the case of having the light being mounted up high, such as for a hair light, this allows you to make adjustments to the settings without having to bring the unit down or stand on a ladder. The body of the controller is made of metal, with the end caps being made of plastic, and the display screen is bright and easy to read. If you desire, you can control the lights via DMX by plugging it into the ports on the controller, but I don't have a console for that, so I'm afraid I can't demonstrate it. You'll also get a nylon strap for hanging the controller onto your light stand, and you can attach V-mount batteries to the back of the controller to power the light when you're not near an outlet. Much to my dismay though, while the cable that runs from the controller to the light is about 9.5 feet in length, the cable that is attached to the power brick is barely 4. Given the fact that the plugs are located on top of the controller and are straight plugs, this means that if you don't want to bend or risk breaking the jack, you can only get the controller about 3 feet off the ground without the brick dangling. This could easily be mitigated had Viltrox included a V-mount for the adapter so it could just slip onto the back of the controller, but they did not. Unfortunately, this is a molded cable, so you can't even replace it with a longer one. The power cable that runs from the outlet to the power brick is a little shy of 10 feet, but the good news here is that it's detachable and is a relatively common style here in the US. So if extension cords aren't your thing, you can get a longer cable very easily. Something that really impressed me about the unit was the fan noise, or lack of. The first time I turned the light on, I thought the fan was broken because I couldn't hear it. It wasn't until I got closer that I realized it was running just fine and moving plenty of air. Even after being on for over an hour, the body of the unit was barely warm. When it comes to fan noises, this is definitely the quietest light that I own. Right now I'm speaking into a Rode shotgun microphone roughly 12 inches from my face, and the audio is being recorded by a Zoom H1. There will be no post-processing in these clips. Now I'm standing next to the Weeylite Ninja 400 set at full power, still roughly 12 inches away from the Rode shotgun microphone, so you can hear how my voice sounds in a worst case scenario against the fan noise from this light. The last thing worthy of mention in this review is the app. I couldn't use it. In fact, I couldn't even find it. My phone is a Galaxy S9 Plus, and no matter what I typed, I was unable to find the app, while my iOS using friend found it immediately. I like to approach my reviews from a real-world use case scenario, and since not everyone owns an iOS device, including myself, I didn't bother going any further. At the end of the day, this light is full of potential, but burdened by growing pains. The inability to use the app on Android devices, at least for now, and the short cable from the power brick to the controller disappoint me some, but aren't major issues. The hard magenta shift, however, is a different story. While I appreciate the color spectrum that this light offers, if it were up to me, I would happily sacrifice such a broad spectrum for greater accuracy. If you're only using the Ninja 400 lights, then the lack of accuracy isn't a huge deal because you can adjust for that in post, and at that point, these lights are great. But if you intend on using other branded lights in combination, or even some practical lighting, I'm afraid you may have some challenges when it comes to the color grading process. In my experience, all budget lights have some level of color shift to them, but they're not normally this severe. I think that with some tweaks, this could be an all-around amazing light, but in my case, and in its current state, it doesn't fit very well with the roster of lights that I currently own. This isn't to say that I'll never find a use for it, but it most likely won't be my immediate go-to, at least not for a key light. That being said, this seems to be Viltrox's first run at a COB-style light, and if they stick with it, I'm absolutely convinced that their next light, or the Mark II version of this one, should they decide to update it, will be an absolute home run. Given the potential of this light and the company's room to grow, I think that a lot of other competitors out there should be scared. If you have any questions about this light, feel free to leave them in a comment down below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. In the meantime, I want to say thanks to Viltrox for sending this out to me, and as always, thanks to you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it to be both helpful and informative, and if you did, please consider doing the things that most people on YouTube ask you to do at the end of their videos. I'd really appreciate it. Did you do it?